Okay, ready to really dig into a business classic. It's one that's surprisingly gripping, too. We're unpacking the goal, and I mean really unpacking it, not just the storyline. We're going deep on how it changes the whole way you think about productivity.
It's like a productivity upgrade for your brain,
Yeah,
inspired by, of all things, a factory floor.
exactly. What's so interesting about the goal is it kind of sneaks up on you. You get pulled in by the story, but then bam, you're questioning everything you thought about efficiency, just like Alex Rogo, the main character.
It's very clever how Goldratt does that. I mean, you meet this guy, Alex, he's a plant manager drowning in pressure.
His factory's a hair away from shutting down.
And his personal life's a complete wreck. Goldratt doesn't mess around. Even that first scene, you're right in the thick of it, feeling the heat.
Oh, absolutely. That opening scene, finding the division VP's Mercedes parked right in his spot.
Not just a parking fail.
Talk about a power move. It's like something out of Machiavelli. And
Yeah.
it shows you right away, this isn't just about, machines and conveyor belts.
This is about real people under pressure, making choices that have serious consequences.
And those consequences. Layoffs on the horizon, a whole town's livelihood hanging in the balance. Even Alex's marriage is feeling the strain.
It's something anyone can relate to, honestly, even if you've never set foot in a factory.
So true. That's what makes Goldratt's approach so effective. He takes these really complex ideas,
Throughput, bottlenecks, constraints.
all that stuff, but grounds it in a way that feels totally human. We've all been there, right?
Feeling that tension between work and life, how a demanding job can just bleed into every part of your world.
For sure. And just when it seems like things can't get any worse for Alex, he runs into his old physics professor, Jonah.
What are the chances, right?
Talk about a chance encounter. Jonah's this big shot business guru now, and he throws Alex a lifeline. Well, more like a cryptic riddle, really.
That's where the deep dive really starts.
Yeah.
This random meeting sets off a whole chain of events.
Jonah vanishes as quickly as he appears, but not before planting that seed of doubt.
He makes Alex confront this question. It seems obvious on the surface. What's the real goal of a manufacturing organization?
You'd think that's a no-brainer, right? Make stuff, sell stuff, make money.
But Jonah, classic enigmatic mentor that he is, he pushes Alex to go deeper.
It's not enough to simply make money. It's about making sure every single action, every decision lines up with that one goal.
That's the key difference right there. It's not about being busy, it's about being effective.
Jonah introduces those three crucial measurements: throughput, inventory, and operational expense.
Throughput, that's the speed at which the whole system makes money through actual sales, which, as Alex finds out, isn't always the same as production.
Then you've got inventory, meaning all the money tied up in things you're hoping to sell. And then operational expense. So that's the money you spend turning that inventory into throughput.
It sounds straightforward when you lay it out like that, like a simple formula.
But when you're in the middle of a factory that's about to go under, trying to actually apply these concepts, that's where things get really interesting.
Classic case of theory versus reality.
Alex is dealing with way too much inventory. Everyone's working overtime. But are they working on the right things? Are they really moving the needle on throughput? That's what's keeping him up at night.
And it's a question we should all be asking ourselves, no matter what our job title is.
So we left off with Alex, neck deep in these ideas, throughput, inventory, but his factory's still a mess. Then Goldratt does this amazing thing. He sends Alex on a hike.
Not just any hike, mind you. It's a Boy Scout trip. And it becomes this total crash course in bottlenecks.
Suddenly you've got Alex, stressed out plant manager, leading this pack of kids through the woods, and boom, it hits him.
Like a lightning bolt.
He's watching them trying to keep up, and he realizes the whole group's stuck behind this one kid, Herbie.
Slowest kid ever.
Doesn't matter how fast the other kids are, they can't get past the bottleneck.
It's such a simple example, but man, it cuts right to the heart of this problem that businesses of all shapes and sizes deal with.
That hike, it's like a mini version of his factory floor.
Exactly. Just like on the trail, on a production line, things depend on each other. There are always hiccups. And then that one constraint, it's like a chokehold on the whole system's throughput.
And anyone who's ever been stuck behind someone creeping along on a trail, you get it instantly. That frustration, you just want to yell, "Come on, Herbie, move it!" But obviously, not that simple.
Nope, not at all. And that's where Alex has this epiphany. He's been so busy trying to keep everyone at the factory working, he never stops to figure out who his Herbie is, what's really holding everything up.
So now he's got this newfound wisdom, courtesy of some Boy Scouts, goes back to the plant on a mission to find Herbie. The real detective work starts here, right?
You got it. He and his team, they're digging into the data, really questioning their assumptions about what's slowing them down. And the funny thing is,
What's that?
what they find is it's not some old school, easy to fix part of the operation. It's their big, fancy, expensive piece of equipment. The NCX-10 machine.
No way. I'd think that would be the least of their worries.
You'd think, right? Everyone assumed, because it was so high-tech, it was also super efficient. But turns out, it was a bottleneck in disguise. Herbie, wearing a tuxedo.
And they'd been doing what? Just running that thing into the ground?
Basically. The thinking was, keep the NCX-10 going no matter what, even if it meant other parts of the plant were just sitting idle. So focused on making that one machine efficient, they were actually messing up the entire system's throughput.
Like forcing Herbie to run a marathon on a sprained ankle? Pointless.
Exactly. And this is where the goal flips the script, makes you ask, what's really driving throughput here? Sometimes the obvious move, like running your most expensive machine non-stop, isn't the smart one.
So what'd they do? Ditch the NCX-10 for a newer model?
Not that easy.
Yeah.
They got creative. They brought back some of the older, slower machines to help out the NCX-10. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Sounds crazy,
It
right?
sounds completely backwards, almost sacrilegious in a factory setting, like telling the fastest kids on the hike to slow down and walk with Herbie. But here's the kicker. It worked. By focusing on keeping that bottleneck moving, even if it meant some downtime elsewhere, they actually boosted the overall throughput.
So it's not about cutting it all downtime, it's about using it strategically.
Exactly. This is huge, and not just for factory folks. We all think being busy equals being productive.
Yeah.
But the goal, it teaches us that's not always true. You got to find your Herbie, that constraint in the system, and work around that, even if it means tossing out old assumptions.
Working smarter, not harder.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. But it goes beyond just the machines and processes. It's about people, too. The goal, it really stresses how important communication is and how you manage change. Alex, he realizes, to make these new ideas stick, he's got to get his employees on board.
Because if the team's not with you, even the best plan in the world won't work.
You got it. So they create this visual system using red and green tags to show which parts are bottleneck parts. Makes it super clear to everyone what needs to be done first, keeps that constraint front and center.
Simple, but I bet it's effective.
You bet it is. It brings that human element to the forefront. Even with the best tech, the best systems, if your team's not with you, if they don't get the why behind it all, you're dead in the water.
So they found their Herbie, they're working around it, things are flowing. What's next? Do they all take a long lunch and call it a day?
They have their moments, sure, but the goal doesn't let them off that easy. They quickly learn capacity. It's not a fixed thing. It changes, it shifts. And this is where the whole continuous improvement idea comes into play.
So it's never really done. It's constant tweaking and adjusting.
You got it. They start noticing more bottlenecks, hidden ones this time, and realize everything's connected. And they try new stuff, constantly trying to squeeze out more throughput. One thing they do is start cutting batch sizes on non-bottleneck processes.
Now hold on, doesn't that mean more setups, more downtime in the end? Seems counterintuitive.
That's what they thought at first. But smaller batches, they actually sped things up and reduced lead times, got finished products out the door faster. Remember, it's not about making each little piece as efficient as it can be on its own. It's about optimizing the whole system.
Like realizing sometimes taking smaller steps actually gets you where you need to be faster, especially if it's a winding, complicated path. Makes you think, huh.
It does, doesn't it?
So Alex has really cracked the code at his plant, turned it around completely. It's a well-oiled throughput machine now. You'd think, time to kick back, relax, take a victory lap, right?
That's where the goal throws you for another loop. Promotion.
Oh, boy.
Alex is put in charge of turning around not just the plant, the whole division.
Talk about being thrown in the deep end.
It's like he's conquered the bunny hill, and now it's straight to the Black Diamond slopes.
Okay, but he's got the know-how now, right?
Yeah.
Find the constraint, fix the system, easy peasy, like putting together, I don't know, like one of those flat pack bookshelves.
Well, that's what Alex thinks too, at first. But managing a division, whole different ballgame. He's dealing with all these interconnected parts, ingrained habits, a whole new level of pushback when he tries to change things.
Because nobody likes it when the new person comes in and starts messing with how things have always been done, even if how things have always been done is a complete mess.
Exactly. And this is where the goal goes to a really interesting place. It challenges that old school cost world way of thinking that a lot of organizations have.
Cost world?
It's all about being laser focused on costs, often at the expense of the bigger picture. Alex and his team, They realize that trying to make each little thing as efficient as possible, like making sure everyone's always busy or minimizing downtime on every single machine, it can actually backfire.
It's like you win the small battles but lose the whole war. You can squeeze out every bit of efficiency from individual departments, but if those efforts don't actually lead to more throughput for the whole company, what's the point?
Exactly. It's about switching the focus from local wins to what's best for the entire system. They start to see the division as, well, a chain, and the chain's only as strong as its weakest link, or in this case, the constraint.
So how do they find this divisional Irby? Sounds like trying to find a needle in a haystack made of, like, spreadsheets and meeting notes.
It's easy to get bogged down in the details, and some of the characters, like Lou, the plant controller, that's exactly what he tries to do. Thinks the answer is in more data, more number crunching.
More spreadsheets. No thanks.
Right. But Alex, he's learned a lot from his time at the plant. He knows they need a different approach, a way to see the big picture, the structure underneath it all.
Instead of getting lost in the weeds, they need to zoom out.
Exactly. And this is where Goldratt does something really cool. He brings in the scientific method. He uses the example of Dmitry Mendeleev.
Hold on, chemistry now. This is where I might need to brush up a bit.
It's not as complicated as it sounds. The point is, Mendeleev, he didn't just throw the elements on a chart randomly. He was looking for a pattern, a common thread, something fundamental that connected them all. And he found it. Atomic weight.
So instead of getting lost in what made each element different, he found what unified them. Kind of like how Alex needs to find the unifying principle of his division.
You got it. And through brainstorming, arguments, more than a few headaches, they figure it out. Throughput.
Seems so simple.
It is simple, but it completely changes how they view the entire division.
So it's not about making each department as efficient as possible on its own. It's about making sure everything contributes to maximizing throughput.
Exactly. It's a whole new mindset. Not how do we make this department look good, but how do we make the whole division more profitable?
Because if you're measuring the wrong things, you're going to get the wrong results, right? Like using a broken compass, you might think you're on the right track, but you're totally lost.
Perfect analogy. They find all these rules and procedures, seem fine on paper, but are actually killing their throughput, their accounting, for example. It was actually encouraging managers to build up more inventory, which ties up money and slows everything down.
So did they fire the accountants? Stage a hostile takeover of the finance department?
Not quite. Remember, it's not about blame. It's about finding the real constraints in the system and figuring out how to fix them. They realize sometimes the biggest bottlenecks aren't physical things at all. They're policies, procedures, even just ways of thinking.
It's the difference between this machine's broken, we need a new one, and we're using this machine wrong, we need a new way to do things.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the brilliance of the goal. It's not just a handbook for factory folks. It's a master class in how systems really work. It teaches you to look deeper, question what you think you know, and be on the lookout for those hidden Irbies that are holding you back.
Because no matter what you do, running a company, managing a team, or even just trying to get through your to-do list, those Irbies are everywhere.
They are sneaky like that. But the good news is, once you know how to find them and deal with them, you can unlock a whole new level of productivity, of effectiveness. It's like that aha moment when you realize you've been working against yourself all along.
So to anyone listening who's feeling stuck, like they're putting in the hours but not getting anywhere, the goal has a powerful message for you. Take a breath, figure out who or what your Irby is, and start working with that constraint, not against it.
You might be surprised what you can accomplish.
That's right. And hey, if a stressed out plant manager like Alex Rogo can turn things around, there's hope for all of us, right? This has been an awesome deep dive. The goal, it's a classic for a reason, folks. Until next time, keep those Herbies on a short leash and keep striving for that ever-elusive goal.